Once a church for community, now a crime scene. This after a person opened fire on this California church, where most of the congregation are utterly Taiwanese.
It is heartbreaking because Taiwanese Americans see this for what it is. This shooting is a kind of Taiwanese American story. It is a complicated political tension, radicalized by misinformation and probably isolation and loneliness, and then given a mechanism to do harm by the gun violence prevalent here.
In the light of the recent deadly shooting in the US, we had to take a look at this issue. The shooter left a note in Chinese stating his dissatisfaction with Taiwan and his position on the China-Taiwan tensions. His choice is to attack not just a place of worship, but specifically a Taiwan Presbyterian Church congregation may have something to do with the role that the church plays in the Taiwan independence movement. Let's look deeper into this. Some may know Taiwanese as being mainly Buddhist and Taoist, but its connections with the Presbyterian Church traces all the way back to 1865. That year, Scottish missionary James Ladewell Maxwell Sr., a member of the English Presbyterian Mission, came to Taiwan, then known as Formosa, and under Qing dynasty rule. Many foreign missionaries were doctors and helped bring Western medicine into Taiwan. They were with Taiwan during the handover to Japan as well. It was during World War II that foreign missionaries were expelled from Taiwan in fear of them spying on Japan. This led to a Taiwan-led Taiwan Presbyterian Church. After Taiwan came under the governance of the Republic of China, or ROC government, the Taiwan Presbyterian Church joined the World Council of Churches. This led the church to think more about human rights issues and how it applied to Taiwan. At the time, the ROC had imposed martial law and people were beaten, tortured, or killed for speaking against the government. Members of the Taiwan Presbyterian Church made multiple public statements despite the threat of jail or even possibly death. As President Jimmy Carter took office and relations between the United States and the People's Republic of China warmed, the church released its most daring statement yet. On August 16, 1977, the Taiwan Presbyterian Church called on the government to make Taiwan a new and independent country. They were the first organizations to publicly call for Taiwan's independence.
Pro-democracy aspirations could exist, but they were also informed and given hope by this theology of liberation. There are instances of Christian missionaries in Taiwan keeping pro-democracy activists safe when they were wanted for execution or questioning by the Chinese nationalist government. And I think the specificity with which David Chou, the shooter, chose that target is very chilling. A lot of Taiwanese Americans, even without a religious affiliation or practice, will have memories of being in a Taiwanese church because they were opened and established and developed to be profoundly social spaces, right? I mean, beyond doxology or sermons, there's also the ministry of just being in community, of serving or being served at a potluck. This was a communal shared space where, one table you'd have a high schooler getting tutored in calculus, and then on the others, the aunties would be gossiping. And this space was sacred both within and apart from any sort of theology. And so for it to become a site of violence is just so uniquely painful.
To many Taiwanese Americans, religious or not, Presbyterian churches became a safe haven. As Taiwanese slowly immigrated to America starting in the 1960s, a Taiwanese Association of America was set up to serve and nurture the Taiwanese immigrant community. The two organizations often collaborated in holding events and had overlapping members.
Now, as we know, the Taiwanese Presbyterian Church was always very active in Taiwan's democratic process. So the Taiwanese Christian churches also were organizing their communities and provided immigrant support within their church groups. Taiwanese Christian churches was like a continuum that never ended. But throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the Taiwanese Association of America was a larger network, which was not religious specific.
But it is important to note that not all Taiwanese shared the same ideologies. Taiwanese immigrants came from many different political backgrounds. Some hoped for a free, democratic, and independent Taiwan, while others saw it as a part of China. Throughout the 80s and 90s, Taiwan slowly transitioned into a more democratic and liberal society. However, some first-generation Taiwanese Americans are still trapped in the memories of white terror or ideologies of one China.
His bitter hatred towards the Taiwanese immigrants is linked and connected, in my opinion, back to that long history of white terror.
I think there are many elders in our community who are familiar with this kind of political violence as well. Their generation in particular lived in this very real fear of overseas spies and assassins sent by the KMT government, and it is a testament to how quickly Taiwan democratized that within that generation's lifetime, we can go from a period of extreme fear and surveillance to present-day Taiwan, where this kind of explicit violence would be unthinkable.
This video is different from others we've done before. We're not commenting on the shooting itself, but hope to bring more context for people to understand what happened.
I see pockets where there are impulses to pursue justice for the victims in a way that is very American and so very punitive. And I think that's a reflection of the anger and agony that Chou has inflicted on our community. But what's also top of mind is that longtime writers and observers and organizers within Taiwanese American and Taiwanese spaces are so thoughtfully working to educate their peers and the public about the specifics of the shooting, because more so than ever, the details of the story matter very much. And it's important to name this conflict for precisely what it is.